Welcome to Alimentary, the podcast series where you will not only learn about your amazing body, how it works, and of course why food is so important, but also pick up some simple recipes and lifestyle tips and tweaks which will help you to influence your health in a positive way. Have you ever described an experience or something that has happened to you as gut-wrenching? Do certain situations make you feel sick in your tummy? Have you ever felt butterflies in your tummy? Well, we use these expressions for a reason. Our gastrointestinal tract is sensitive to emotions, anything from anger, anxiety, sadness, elation. All of these feelings and others can trigger symptoms in our gut. So, what I'm going to talk about today is how our brain and our gut, in particular, obviously everything's connected, but how our brain and our gut in particular are connected, and also how they impact and influence each other. So, maintaining a healthy gut is at the heart of every health issue, and we should nurture a healthy microbiome in order to support our immune system and our mood, even. So, let's start by chatting a bit about the brain. So, it's a complex organ and it controls thought, memory, emotion, touch, motor skills, vision, breathing, temperature, hunger, and every process that regulates our body. So together, the brain and the spinal cord, which comes out from the brain and extends down into our back, they make up the central nervous system, or the CNS. So basically, I guess we could talk about six main parts. So we have our frontal lobe, and this is where our thinking, our memory, behavior, and movement is controlled. We have our temporal lobe, and this is where our hearing, our learning, and our feelings are controlled. We have our parietal lobe, which is language and touch, and we have our occipital lobe, which is sight. Our cerebellum, that manages our balance and coordination. And then we have our brain stem. So from this, breathing, heart rate, and temperature are controlled. So then when we look at our gut is home to 100 trillion microorganisms. Yes, that's 100 trillion. So we have more microorganisms than actual cells in our body. And collectively, those microorganisms are known as our microbiota. Now, our gut's primary function is the digestion and absorption of nutrients from our food, and then also the excretion of waste. So, waste is the food that we don't need, and the food which has no nutrient density, if you like, and then obviously other toxins that we ingest in other ways. So, it has a major influence on the development and the function of the immune system, as well as on the gut-brain communications. So our gut is made up of, it starts in our mouth, of course. We start digesting in our mouth with our saliva, the digestive enzymes in our saliva, and that the food obviously travels down through our esophagus into our stomach. Our liver is part of our digestive system, and we had another episode about the liver and how important that is, along with the gallbladder, which produces our bile. We have our pancreas, our large intestine, our small intestine, our appendix, our rectum, and then finally our anus. So that's our digestive system. Literally begins in our mouth and ends in our butt. So just getting back to the microbiota, first of all, so it is profoundly important. So Dr. Rodney Berg of Louisiana State University wrote in a paper which he published in Trends in Microbiology. So I'm going to quote him now. He said, "The indigenous gastrointestinal tract microflora has profound effects on the anatomical, physiological, and immunological development of the host." We are the host. So basically what he's saying is that our microbiome, our good and bad gut bacteria have a massive, profound effect on our health, basically. So the microbiota is the variety of microorganisms which live in our human environment. And that includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other single cell organisms which live in our bodies. And then the microbiome that's the collective genomes of the microorganisms in a given environment. So that means all of their genetic material, their DNA and RNA, which again we spoke about in a different podcast. So how the gut and the brain actually influence each other. So just to give you, I suppose, a simple example, if you think about your favorite meal, then that can make you hungry, because your brain is thinking about it and your gut is getting ready for it, basically. So your stomach starts producing juices to digest it before the food is even eaten. Conversely, if your tummy is upset, if your intestine is upset, then that's going to send signals to the brain that something is wrong. And then again, a troubled brain, so if you're feeling anxious, that also sends signals back down to the gut. So our stomach or intestinal distress can be either the cause or the product of anxiety, stress, or depression. So they're intimately connected and they're influencing each other all the time. So basically, our brain will influence our gut in terms of motility. So that means how our food moves through our digestive system. So, for example, if you're really anxious or stressed, you might find that you get a bit more constipated. It's going to slow down your digestive system because you're in a state of, high cortisol, high anxiety. It also influences our microbial balance. And if our gut is toxic, so if we have poor balance between our good and our bad gut bacteria, if we have a bad bacterial overgrowth, then that is going to actually impact the neurotransmitters that are being produced, which are important to the brain as well. So our gut which isn't healthy can really have a huge impact on our mood and our behavior. So we call that the gut-brain axis. So the gut-brain axis is just the communication system between the gut and the brain. So who's the boss between the two of them? I suppose intuitively we might assume that the brain sends more signals to the gut than the other way around. But actually, 80 to 90% of all messages that travel through the gut-brain axis, so through that communication system, are delivered from the gut to the brain. So this actually means that our gut is far more intelligent than we historically realized. So even things like, we use these sayings all the time, things like, what's your gut instinct? What do you feel in your gut? What's your gut telling you? So our gut actually has a brain. It's called our enteric brain. It's part of our enteric nervous system. And actually it does, as I said, it talks to the brain more than the brain talks to it. So the state of our gut is hugely important to how our brain is working. So this second brain consists of lots of neurons embedded into the walls of the long tube of our gut, or our alimentary canal, which is what I've called the podcast after. And that's about 9 meters long from end to end. So that's from our esophagus to our anus is about 9 meters long, imagine. So the enteric nervous system can actually operate independently of the brain and the central nervous system. So, as I said, we might think that our brain is the boss, but actually our enteric brain, in evolutionary terms, may have actually developed first. So is it really our second brain, or is our enteric brain actually the boss of us? So just getting back to, I suppose, gut health and anxiety, I think that understanding this relationship will help us to understand why we might feel butterflies in our tummy, say, before you have to do a presentation, or something that we're nervous about, or even get pains in our tummy during times of stress. So it doesn't mean that these symptoms are all in our head. Psychology combines with physical factors to cause the pain and other bowel symptoms. So stress or anxiety, depression, or other psychological factors can affect movement and contractions in our GI tract. So basically, they can impact the performance of our digestive system and that motility that I mentioned earlier on. So many people with functional gastrointestinal disorders perceive pain more acutely than other people do because their brains are actually more responsive to pain signals from the GI tract. So stress can make existing pain seem even worse. Multiple studies have also found that psychologically based approaches lead to greater improvement in digestive systems compared with only conventional medical treatments. Actually, according to Harvard Health, given this strong mind-body brain gut connection, it should come as no surprise that mind body tools such as meditation, mindfulness, breathing exercises, yoga, and gut directed hypnotherapy have all been shown to help improve GI symptoms, improve mood, and decrease anxiety. And this is because they decrease the body's stress response by dampening the sympathetic nervous system. So that's our fight or flight, and enhancing our parasympathetic response, which is our rest and digest. And so that all decreases inflammation. And we did a podcast about that as well, our fight or flight and rest and digest. That was called The State of Us, if you want to check that one out. So when you visit a nutritional therapist, we will often actually chat to you about your stress levels and your if you have hobbies, if you can relax, what your work life balance is like, because all of these things, you can eat the best food in the world, but if your stress levels are too high, going back again to the 4 pillars of our health, if your stress levels are too high, that has a huge impact on the functioning of your gut and how beneficial all of these good foods are going to be for you. So it's like laying the foundation for your digestive health is managing your stress levels. Deep breathing is something that really everybody can do. So some people might just not be attracted to meditation as such, but deep breathing, that big long exhale, helps activate that parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest. You can do it before you have a meal, is a really good idea. Bring yourself back down into rest and digest. Belly breathing is fantastic if you could do this for a couple of minutes a day. And this is where you inhale slowly and deeply through your nose into your abdomen. So if you put your hand on your tummy and you push it out, as you're breathing in, you push your tummy out and you just get as much air as you can into those lungs. So you breathe as deeply as it feels comfortable, and your chest should remain still. Often when we think, when we go to take a deep breath, it's our chest that seems to get filled up, and we lift our chest. What I want you to do is just, if you push out your tummy, then you're actually really filling out your lungs there. Exhale through your mouth, sort of making like a whooshing sound, and gently blow out all the air and completely empty your lungs. So this deep breathing supplies more oxygen to all of our body parts, including the digestive system, and improves our intestinal strength, which aids overall digestion, and it is going to help your body absorb all the good food that you're eating, the nutrients from the good food that you're eating. And it provides enhanced levels of energy to all our body cells, because obviously you're getting more oxygen, to all of the cells. There is another breathing exercise this is if you're in a situation where your anxiety is heightened, where you feel like you're having a panic attack. And this is where you close over your right nostril. So pop your thumb on your right nostril so that it's closed, and breathe in through your left nostril to the count of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So nice and sort of slowly like that. Hold to the count of 5, and then you breathe out. You exhale through the same left nostril to the count of 5. Hold again to the count of 5, and repeat that about 5 times until you feel calm. And what you're doing there, breathing in through your left nostril, is again activating that parasympathetic nervous system to bring yourself back into rest and digest. So breathing is a powerful tool that all of us can use to improve our health, and to maintain our health as well. But it would be really beneficial if you could build in, 5 to 10 minutes mindful breathing. So that's just literally breathing deeply and counting your breaths first thing in the morning. Just get your day off to a good start, and maybe before you go to sleep as well, to bring yourself back down into rest and digest, to hopefully improve the quality of your sleep then as well. So if our gut has such a huge impact on our brain, and that is going to impact how our day pans out for us. So the better the mood we're in, the better things go, as you know. So how can we help to keep our gut in good shape? So we want to feed that good gut bacteria, which means obviously less sugar, because sugar feeds our bad gut bacteria, and that's going to upset the balance. It does other things as well, which we'll talk about again. But what we want to talk about now are prebiotics, which are foods that feed our good gut bacteria. And there are things like whole grains. So anything with fiber is great. So whole grains like oats are fantastic. They're a great prebiotic. So again, have your porridge for breakfast, Bananas are good, greens, so our green vegetables, onions, garlic, soybeans, artichokes are fantastic if you can get them, and resistant starch. So resistant starch is interesting. So as you know, when you cook food, it changes the chemistry of it. So it softens it. Basically, we cook our vegetables to make them softer, so that we can digest them better. So when you're cooking potatoes, that obviously changes the chemistry and they become soft. And then as they cool down, that changes the chemistry again. And when porridge cools and when potatoes cool down, they develop this resistant starch, which is really beneficial for your gut bacteria. So at this time of year, homemade potato salad is actually really good for your good gut bacteria. And I have a recipe for it on my website. So I'll stick that in the show notes. Probiotics, so they're prebiotics. So prebiotics feed our good gut bacteria. So then you probably are all aware about probiotics, which are live bacteria or yeasts, and they're found in fermented food, and they're add to our good gut bacteria. So you'll be familiar with yogurt. Now, not all yogurts are equal, so you want to buy natural yogurt. If you are adding too many sweeteners and too many gimmicky things to yogurts, of course, the sugar, isn't going to help. So natural yogurt is the best. If you're not mad keen on the taste of it, you can always put in your NutriBullet or your blender and add some fruit to it yourself, so you can make up your own fruit flavored yogurt. Sauerkraut is amazing. You get sauerkraut traditionally, I suppose, it's often made with cabbage, but actually there's some fantastic cultured food companies now in Ireland making sauerkraut out of different vegetables, like even carrots and different vegetables. So I'm going to put a link to the cultured food company in Cork, and you'll often find really good sauerkraut at some of your local markets, maybe in Polish supermarkets as well. I think it's becoming a little bit more available, but even a forkful of sauerkraut every day is hugely beneficial for your good gut bacteria, and it's actually delicious. The best way that I can describe it to someone who hasn't tasted it before is just that it's like a tangy coleslaw. It's just like shredded vegetables, and it's got a sort of a tangy flavor to it. Absolutely delicious. It would be even more beneficial if you had a couple of different types of sauerkraut. So, a few different vegetables, fermented vegetables in your fridge, and had a different one every day, because you're getting different strains of bacteria that way, So really super. As I said, literally even just a forkful a day of sauerkraut is hugely beneficial for your gut. I personally would eat more than one when I have it, but it's fab. So kimchi, kefir, kombucha. So kefir and kombucha are drinks. And again, there's more Irish companies actually making kefir and kombucha. And you can get, so kombucha would be dairy free, but kefir may be made with dairy, but you can also get dairy free versions if you can't take dairy. Miso, again, you might see miso soup in some of your health food shops. Again, that's another great fermented food. So eating a diverse range of whole foods, so your rainbow colors of vegetables with very few refined carbohydrates, and reducing your processed foods. So again, reduce down your white flour, your sugar, your additives, and just to the minimum. And that means that your gut has a better chance of flourishing and being healthier. So the other things that we can do to help our gut are to acknowledge and deal with any allergies or insensitivities that we may have. So for certain individuals, certain kinds of foods can trigger specific reactions in your gut, and they might require a quite specific food plan in order to heal their gut. So for example, I'm celiac, so I will just never have gluten. Some people may find that they have an insensitivity to gluten or wheat, and once their tummy is healed, they can handle a small amount of it. But it would be really important to make sure that you heal your gut and take time out, if you have a sensitivity or an allergy, to make sure that your gut is fully healed and working properly. And then you can reintroduce some of these foods in a planned way to make sure that they're not still an issue for you. But if you think that 70% of your immune system is in your gut, that it has a huge impact on your brain, which has an impact on your mood and your behavior, which in turn has an impact on how your life is, how happy or satisfied you are in your life and how good your relationships are around you, then why wouldn't you just make sure that if food is triggering you in some way, remove it, sort out the issue, and stick with eating foods that actually make you feel good. They have that direct impact on your life, you know. Foods rich in polyphenols are really good for your gut as well. So the good news is that's dark chocolate, a little bit of red wine, red grapes, green tea is super, and again, it's full of antioxidants. Almonds are a great source of polyphenols, and I've loads of recipes with almonds on the website as well. Onions, blueberries, broccoli. So these are all foods that we can incorporate every day. Now, just going back to the probiotics, the probiotic foods, the fermented foods, I would always have probiotics on hand, you know, so that if there are days when I don't think I eat a couple of fermented foods, like if I have no sauerkraut or whatever, then I'll have probiotics as well. And it's a good idea to change up your probiotics. You can get probiotics for specific conditions as well. So always get advice. But if you're just generally taking probiotics for health, then it's a good idea to switch them up. And maybe I might have Biocults this month and I might have OptiBac next month, because I'm getting different strains of probiotics and that good live bacteria. There's another piece of research that I just wanted to mention to you as well. So this is from the University of Tsukuba in Japan. I hope I've pronounced that properly. And this suggests that gut bacteria may also influence normal sleep patterns by helping to create important chemical messengers in the brain, such as our serotonin and our dopamine. So actually, our gut can influence our sleep. And again, sleep has such a huge impact on our life, you know, our health and our lives, you know. So again, that's just one more reason why we should look after the health of our gut. Myself and Michelle Hutton from Body Aura Therapies, we actually did a video about sleep. So I'll actually put a link to that in the show notes as well, because there's some good tips in there, some good information, and hopefully which will motivate you to pick up on some of the tips. So just to mention something that I probably do and I will mention a lot, and that's the vagus nerve. So this really plays an essential part in that gut-brain axis, so that gut-brain communication system. It helps to modulate inflammation, maintain our intestinal balance, and it regulates our food intake, our satiety, which is how full we feel, and our energy balance. So it's really, really important to keep our vagus nerve in good nick. So the things that we can do to actually strengthen our vagus nerve, so we can do alternate nostril breathing. So this could be a breathing exercise that you do maybe first thing in the morning when you wake up, and it's for balance, you know. So balances that rest and digest and that fight or flight. And it's so similar to the exercise we did earlier where we closed over the right nostril. We're going to close over the right nostril, breathe in through the left, and then we swap over, close over our left nostril and breathe out through our right. And then we breathe in through our right nostril, hold, and swap again, and then breathe out through our left nostril. Do that again to the count of 5, and do that for a few minutes. So do it either 5 times or even for 5 minutes. And that's actually really good to strengthen our vagus nerve and just make us feel more balanced at the beginning of the day. A cold compress to our face or the back of our neck. So that's just if you get your face cloth and put it under the cold tap, soak it, squeeze it, and then just apply it to the back of your neck or your face. And that can actually help to stimulate that vagus nerve as well. So just even breathing deeply and slowly, like we mentioned earlier, things like doing something nice for somebody, you know, complimenting other people, saying thank you, just, you know, having being pleasant and kind to people around you actually helps you as well. Of course, walking in nature, eating our whole foods helps the vagus nerve as well. So any exercise that you enjoy, and of course, laughing and giggling is brilliant for the vagus nerve. And you'll notice that if you're laughing, you can't be anxious about the past or worrying about the future. When you're laughing, that is one of those things that you're just in the present moment in. Of course, listening to calming music or just happy music and dancing and singing is all really good for the vagus nerve. And then you can have therapy. So there's fantastic massage, reflexology, you know, different therapies that you can benefit from, you know, and which will help the vagus nerve as well. So just as a reminder for our top 6 tips to help your gut, eat your prebiotic foods, Eat fermented food or take probiotics. Eat your whole grains and vegetables for fiber. Practice your deep breathing, and practice means a few minutes every single day. That's much more beneficial than, say, doing like a half hour on a Sunday. If you do even 2 to 5 minutes of breathing exercises, even to start with every single day, that has a cumulative effect and builds up. So that's what practice means. Keep doing it. And then we want to just be aware that we're in rest and digest more than when we're in fight or flight. Fight or flight is good sometimes. A little bit of stress is good sometimes. It can, make us run across the road if there's a car coming, or we might have a deadline that we need to get some work done or something like that. But we just shouldn't be in it too much of the time. And then the final tip is just laugh, giggle, sing, be nice to other people. That's not too hard to do. Since we've been talking about the brain today, I thought our store cupboard staple could be a little nut which packs a big nutritional punch and actually looks a little bit like a brain as well, and that's a walnut. So, of course, this is unless you have a tree nut allergy, in which case, obviously, steer clear. But walnuts are like other nuts. They have great healthy fats, protein, and fiber. But in particular, how are walnuts really good for us? So, they have some calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium, folate, those good polyunsaturated fats, and also omega-3 fatty acids. And omega-3 is really anti-inflammatory. And oily fish is really good for omega-3. But in terms of plant sources, walnuts is good, as well as flax seeds, chia seeds too. So studies have shown that eating walnuts can help to lower our bad cholesterol in particular, but also our cholesterol overall. Of course, that means, as part of a healthy, balanced diet. Now, with nuts, you don't actually need to eat a whole pile of them. So remember, they do have fats in them, but they're obviously healthy fats, but you still need to manage your proportions, So up to like 6 or 7 walnuts a day is plenty for you to get those really good nutritional benefits. They also contain a type of acid called ellagic acid, found in pecans as well. But basically, bacteria in your stomach and intestines change this acid into compounds with antioxidant power. There's more research going on. It's being studied for its anti-inflammatory, cancer-fighting properties. They may have this ellagic acid may be beneficial for a variety of chronic health conditions. Walnuts also contain B vitamins, E, and magnesium, and all of these things are really important for strengthening your hair cuticles and nourishment of your scalp. So walnuts are actually really good for your hair as well. And also those antioxidants that we mentioned, they can help protect our skin against environmental aggressors. So, pollution and other impurities. Which of course in turn helps the appearance of premature fine lines and wrinkles. Now they're also a good food source of melatonin, which helps with the quality of our sleep. Normally, I would say don't eat anything for about 2 hours before you go to bed, so that you're finished digesting, and then your body can get busy, renewing and repairing when you're asleep. However, for some people, especially when they're trying to sort of change and get back to a better sleep, they may find that a sugar spike or feeling hungry is actually waking them up. So if you're going to have anything before you go to sleep, a handful of nuts would probably be your best choice. So the protein is going to help you stay feeling full. The fiber is obviously good for the gut. And then the melatonin in the walnuts, is going to help with the quality of your sleep as well. So they would be a good choice if you had to have something before you went to bed. They also are good for your hair because they contain biotin and vitamin E and a lot of magnesium. So all of these are required to strengthen our hair cuticles and nourish our scalp as well. All of the antioxidants that we've mentioned and the vitamin B, they help to protect our skin against environmental aggressors as well. So, too much sun, maybe pollution, other impurities around us. So obviously that can contribute to reducing skin damage and the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. I guess just a wee recap there. They're rich in antioxidants. They are a great plant source of omega-3, which obviously helps to decrease inflammation in our body. And the fiber helps to promote a healthy gut and the good fats, So overall, walnuts are a great choice to have in your store cupboard. So what are you going to do with them? Well, they're just brilliant. It's brilliant to have a handful of like nuts or seeds if you're having a piece of fruit. And the reason is because fruit does still contain fructose, which is like a sugar as well. But actually, the protein and the fiber in the nuts is going to help slow down the release of that sugar into the blood, which I just mentioned a little while ago as well. So they're absolutely delicious. I love them with bananas. I think walnuts and bananas go really well together, but they're lovely with apples as well, So just to have a handful with a piece of fruit is a really, really good, easy way to get them in. You can also obviously chop them up and add them into if you're making maybe an oat bread or a banana bread. So they can be used in baking really well. I would put them into, I mix it up when I'm making my almond cookies, I'd mix up I'd put different nuts, chopped nuts in with them every time. So they work well in that. And also granola bars, the recipes for both are on my website. So I'll put links in the show notes as well. But walnuts are actually lovely in a salad with apple and celery. Apple, celery, walnuts, and a little salad dressing. Absolutely delicious. So there's loads of ways. You can sprinkle them over your salad, over soup. There's absolutely loads of ways. But again, I would say have them in a glass jar, somewhere so that you can see them, not at the back of the press. And I think I find myself anyway that when I can see these ingredients, I use them more often. So hopefully there's some motivation there for you to include some walnuts in your shopping basket this week. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I just wanted to clarify that the podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional care from a doctor or trained health professional, nor does it constitute medical advice or services if you're in a position to need either. However, if you find it interesting, you can subscribe to make sure you don't miss future episodes or sign up for my newsletter on lynsharkeynutrition.ie.